Leaston was so small compared to other townships, few considered it a town, though it had the necessary establishments for the area and any tired traveler who came by. There was a blacksmith shop with stables, a grain silo in the center of town, a small tavern and inn called the Flying Unicorn, with a small dry goods and produce market on one side and an even smaller smokehouse cellar on the other. By any standard, Leaston was not a busy town. A lone figure stepped onto the dirt road after leaving the blacksmith shop. A dark green cloak and hood obscured a figure from the few who walked around the front of the market. The evening's weather was comfortable enough that the cloak was not necessary for warmth or to ward off dampness. Rather, it was used to conceal the person's features. The front was closed, so nothing of the wearer could be seen beyond the telltale poke of a scabbard on the person's left side. Few visitors stopped at Leaston. Fewer stayed the night at the inn, as most travelers preferred to continue for another hour to the larger town of Greensmith. It was not surprising that the locals expressed some curiosity toward the visitor. One in particular, a fairly rough-looking man, watched with exceptional interest as he leaned against the upright pole supporting the market's porch roof. His eyes followed the figure as the cloak disappeared into the inn. Once inside, the visitor glanced about. A small fire heating a hanging stew pot in the fireplace in the far left corner. The doorway beside the fireplace led to both the hall for the sixth-floor level rooms and to the stairs that led to the upper hallway for 3 more expensive rooms and the owner's lodgings. Toward the far right corner was the door to the kitchen and the bar table where food and drink were served. 4 large tables with benches sat in the middle of the room, as well as one smaller round table with 3 chairs in the left front corner. On the right wall was a ragged skin of dark brown fur that the owner boasted came from a rock beast he had once killed. Those who knew better recognized the skin as coming from one of the fairly harmless swamp bears found in the southern end of the Great Swamp. Other than the visitor, the inn held 6 people. 5 patrons mulled over cooked roast, while the 6th, the owner, engaged in quiet conversation with one of the others. Walking to the round table in the corner, the visitor pulled out a chair and sat with back to wall facing the room. The owner left his conversation and walked toward the visitor, just as the hood was pulled back. She was an attractive woman who seemed in her early 20s. Long, straight black hair covered her ears and disappeared into the cloak. Her tanned face had high cheekbones, full lips, and dark brown eyes that followed the oncoming owner's movements. "Yes, my lady," the portly man asked. "What'll ye have?" "What's the meat?" "Deer, killed yesterday." While deer meat was not her favorite, she nodded. "Very well then, a well-cooked piece with an ale." The owner started back toward the bar to slice off the meat when the door opened, and the man from the market stepped in. He wore well-worn, dirty brown pants with a loose, equally dirty red linen top. Running a hand through his disheveled hair, he looked around and noticed the woman. He ignored her for the moment and walked toward the bar, where the owner, who had paused when the man entered, continued to the bar. "Ale," the man said roughly, his voice indicating he had already quite a bit of alcohol. "Haven't you had enough for one night, Cone?" the owner asked, his voice tinged with fear. "I'll let ye know when I've had enough. Give me ale." The owner nodded nervously and bent to take a tankard off the shelf and fill it from a small barrel. He quickly set it before the man and poured another, setting the tankard on the platter. With a large knife he carved several pieces off the deer roast, putting them on a wooden plate with some hard bread. He quickly carried the tray to the woman in the corner, avoiding the eyes of the man at the bar. He set it down nervously. "Here you go, my lady. I hope you enjoy your sup. Let me know if you need something else." She gave him a slight smile. "Thanks. I'm sure it will do." "When you're done," the man at the bar said loudly, "I have something else you can enjoy. All night if you can take it." The owner turned so the woman could see who had spoke. "Leave my customers alone, Cone. Just drink your drink and let her be." You're telling me what to do? He gulped down the last of his ale. I don't want no trouble, Cone. If you want another ale, I'll get you one. The man threw his empty tankard against the wall. I don't want no more of your swamp water. I sees what I want. The other 5 patrons, deciding they were finished, stood to leave. What? Cone asked. You don't like me company? He glared at him. Sit down and eat. The 5 sat nervously as the man walked toward a corner table. The owner blocked his path. Cone, why don't you just leave before you do something you'll regret? He swayed as he came near the owner. Do something I'll regret, like ye is doing? Get out of my way. Shoving the man to the floor, he continued toward the woman. The owner did not try to rise. Instead, he watched silently as Cone stopped at the woman's table. He knew the encounter would not go well for her, but he was powerless to stop it. You're a good-looking wench, Cone said. How about you spending some time with me tonight and having some fun? He leered. She did not reply or even look at him. Taking a bite of the meat, she followed it with some ale. I'd need a man for that. If you find one, let me know. His smile faded. I'll be more man than ye can handle, wench. Eyes can fill ye up with more than the swamp water. He grabbed her tankard and slung it down, splashing ale on the floor. Come here, let me show you what I mean. Ye too good looking to be spending the night alone. While the ale wasn't so good that I would cry over not having it, it was my drink. She stared at him and spoke calmly. As far as spending time with you, I will give you some advice. Leave now, or you'll spend time with worms. His eye narrowed. With a growl, he flung the table aside, making her stand. You'll come with me yourself, or I'll carry you on my shoulder. Or mayhaps that's how you like it. He grabbed for her arm. She stepped sideways, grabbed his arm, and shoved it forward, sending him crashing into the wall. Opening her cloak, she placed her right hand on her sword hilt. I will tell you one last time. Walk away, or be dragged away. He stood and looked at her with red hatred. I was only gonna have some fun with ye. Now I'll still have the fun, but it won't be fun for ye. He reached for her and stopped when silver flashed past his face. A look of puzzlement, then astonishment came to his face before he fell. His body sliced open from chest to groin. The woman, a lock of hair having moved aside to reveal a pointed ear, looked at the body, then used the man's shirt to clean her blade, and spat on him before sheathing it. Lass, the owner said, walking out quickly, you best go. You're throwing me out? She looked at him. I'd rather not. He stared at the fallen man. His friends will find out what happened soon, and you won't want to be here when that happens. Fine. She was offended. I don't want to give you too much to clean up. She closed her cloak again. I suggest that you people get a backbone, unless you enjoy being slaves to scum like that. Pulling on her hood, she strode out without paying or a backward glance. Once again, Marist, the elf, was forced to leave because some scum got what he deserved. Walking back to the blacksmith's, she thought over what was becoming a tiresome, repetitious lifestyle whenever she reached a small town. Once again, she had to gather her horse and ride to the next town, or just continue until she found what she sought. She was looking for information about the dragon that was devastating the land, but beyond the little she learned from the blacksmith, the town offered little else. Still, she had a destination, the headwaters of the Crystal River. The reward of 50,000 rims for the dragon's head would buy her a lot more than some passable ale and a few nights' stay at a decent inn. She smiled at the thought. Looking back at the inn for a moment, she dearly longed for the comfort of a feather bed again. Night covered a great swamp like a shroud. The sky went from deep red to purple, then to clear, sparkling black of the heavens. Aleph made a small camp near the objective of his journey, at least according to Vera's blood map. The trip, though uneventful, took slightly longer than he had hoped. After spending several hours finding a way to ford a soft-bottomed pool without his mount or himself being sucked dry by giant leeches, or getting lost in endless muck, he finally found a path on safe ground. Drying his boots before his small campfire, he merely had to wait until the proper time to view the pool. He had long heard tales of Mirror Lake, the supposed magic pool of water that sometimes showed visions of the future. As a former knight, he distrusted anything magical. Most oft, like the foul witch who sent him here, magic reeked of evil doings and dishonor, and it tended to exact a higher price for its use than the benefits it brought. However, being a realist, he knew that to do battle against a powerful foe such as a dragon, and win, sometimes required all the help possible, including magic and guile. Though he was not as skillful with his blade as he had once been, he felt he retained enough skill to serve his needs. The hard work of being a farmer kept him as muscled and toughened as the time when he was a knight, though his swordsmanship waned from disuse. The hoeing of weeds required little thrust and parry. Regardless of his current proficiency, Aleph knew that not even the most skillful swordsman could hope to defeat the dragon. It would take far more than cold steel to acquire such a victory. Even an army with a league of expert archers would have trouble with such a foe. Still, he had vengeance as his ally, and in that Aleph knew that if there was any way in the world he could cleave the dragon's head from its body, he would do it even though it meant his death. Mirror Lake was a small pool of water, only a few feet wide, far too small to be called a lake. That made him doubt he had found what he sought until he gazed upon the water. Had there been such a substance as liquid obsidian, it would have formed a pool before him. The water was utterly black, as though it absorbed all light, and lay as smooth as a crystal facet. Looking into its surface, he saw a perfect reflection, as though it were a mirror. Varys spoke truly about the lake's location, and he had hoped she also told the truth concerning the visions. It was unfortunate that the witch's price for the information, his life's blood, was paid by herself when she tried to collect. He absently rubbed his nose as the memory of her stench made his nostrils twitch. The first 2 nights' travel through the swamp passed without incident, making him feel concerned. Mayhap another would have considered himself lucky not to encounter any of the swamp's darker creatures, but not Aleph. Finding himself deep in the swamp, a place well known for its creatures, without being attacked or even seeing such beasts, was unsettling. Finally, on the 3rd night, that of the new moon, he went to stare into the calm, black water. Just as the witch woman said, the surface began to ripple by itself, circles following one another from the center outward, as if someone dropped pebbles in. Within the ripples came broken images of visions, magical reflections of light from below the surface.